You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hello, everyone. Stellar Success Podcast again. I'm your host, Dr. Tudor Francu, and I have a great guest today. Someone who is proving that having a full-time job in healthcare, it's not something that you can avoid and start real estate investing. Jesse Dickens. How are you, Jesse?
I'm fantastic, Tudor. Appreciate you having me on.
That's great, man. Jesse, my podcast is called Stellar Success, and I obviously interview people that are mainly in healthcare field and they're successful, like yourself. What does success mean to you?
It's a good question, and I love the premise of the podcast because it's such a subjective term. So I think everyone really does have their own definition of what that looks like. And I think for me, it's kind of a two-prong answer to that. So I have somewhat of an arbitrary idea of getting to a number where my passive income exceeds my my expenses to a point where I no longer have to work. I love what I do. I don't plan on not working, but my goal is to have the ultimate optionality and flexibility to not have to work, to put food on the table for the family, put a roof over our heads, and have that be just because I love doing what I do. And then outside of that, trying to get to more of a place of just acceptance around, regardless of what happens, just being content with wherever I'm at, because I think that there have been different checkpoints along the way where I have tried to get to a certain points and almost felt like, hey, that's where success is gonna be. And then I've gotten to those points and I've just moved the goalpost. And that's a kind of a never-ending cycle that it's kind of unfulfilling when you get there and realize that it's not necessarily happiness on the other side of that. So the second piece is almost just more contentment with where I'm at personally and where our family's at.
That's very interesting. I'm very happy you have this approach. And, I'm thinking what you're talking about, Jim Brown's quote that he said, it's not what you accomplish, it's what you become in the process. And that's exactly what you're doing, right? You're moving your goal setting higher and higher while you're achieving it. And you become a better person on the way. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how did you start and what it took to be where you are right now?
Sure. It's kind of a windy road, but the abbreviated version is that I initially went to school. I got a music business degree. I wanted to be a traveling musician. I just wanted to be a rock star. Went and got a 4-year degree around music business and trying to be my own manager and do all that. I was playing music, had a lot of great experiences, a lot of bucket list items. And then I met my wife and things started to get serious. We knew we wanted to have a family and realized that probably wasn't the lifestyle that would be the most suitable for raising a family. And I ended up going back to school about a year after I graduated with that degree and wanted to get into healthcare. And I looked around for different avenues that I could go, and I landed on medical imaging. And I knew I wanted to do something within healthcare, but at that point, it was probably too late to go the physician route. And I just kind of fell in love with medical imaging. And I watched an echocardiogram bedside as I was volunteering at a local hospital here in Denver, and sat outside the room and waited for the technologist to come out and talk to her about it. And she ended up being my main mentor after I went to school and got an internship. And so I've been doing cardiac ultrasound or echocardiography for almost 10 years now. I run a small mobile imaging company here in Colorado. We service rural communities all over the state. The Department of Corrections really love it. It's not a part of corporate healthcare, and it's really just patient care centered, and I absolutely love it. So that's been my profession medically. On top of that, I've been investing in real estate over the past 4 years or so, and that has really started to build the cushion of additional income streams to support and augment my my earned income.
Very nice, very nice. So you are someone who basically had a full-time job and now started investing in real estate. And for people that are in healthcare, this is one of the main things that I hear about. I hear about, I don't have time. I don't have the connections. Where do I go to? Who's going to be my mentor? All these like barriers in mindset that they're self-limiting basically. And I wonder, in your opinion, what was the main thing that moved you forward and kind of took a leap to start investing?
It was a very definitive moment. It was the moment that our first son was born. And I had made the decision a couple of years prior that I wanted to be a real estate investor. And I kind of succumbed to all those limiting beliefs of, hey, I don't have enough time. I'm working 50, 60 hours a week. I'm on call. I'm working weekends, holidays. We're trying to start a family. And I let those hold me back. And then when our son was born, I remember standing in the hospital holding that, we always talk about our why. And now I had a 7-pound, 7-ounce tangible why in my hands. And it went from, this is a theory that I want to build this for my future family, to this is exactly the reason why I need to step out of my comfort zone. And within 2 months of that experience, I bought a house to do a fix and flip on, and I joined a mentorship program to learn the ins and outs of apartment investing. And it had been on my radar for 2 to 3 years. And then 2 months from that day, the actions really started. And that's what set the ball rolling.
That's awesome, man. You have definitely a strong why right there in your hands. But we all know that motivation can definitely get you started like you did. But consistency is the one thing that will get you there. Along the way, what are some skills and habits that you develop to keep you consistent in this journey and keep learning, keep investing, keep doing your full-time job, keep taking care of your family? How do you approach this day-to-day habit building life?
That's a great question, because it really is, there can be little spurts of motivation that come. But as you know, this is the entrepreneurial leap, is it's not linear to where I show up to work and every 2 weeks I get a paycheck. This is periods of months and sometimes years of putting in work and not necessarily seeing the results that you want to see. And sometimes there's less tangible results that you have, but you have to consistently, like that. I think that's the main word, is find ways to show up day in and day out. And I think I had to rearrange for me the way that I approached my efficiencies just in life in general. And time blocking has become so valuable for me, to lay out on a piece of paper, on a calendar, exactly how I'm going to dedicate hours of each individual day and be able to still give adequate time to my job, adequate time to my family, and adequate time to my business endeavors, and be able to be more strategic about how I approach that. And I think being in the circles that you and I tend to be in, around individuals that have gone through tougher struggles than us as far as these roadblocks, and still found a way to show up and be successful, I think that has been the additional motivation that I need. I'm a podcast junkie. I'm listening to podcasts every single day. Now Stellar Success is going to be on my list, and I'm excited about that. I'm not a big reader, but I love listening to Audible. So finding some books, you had mentioned Jim Rohn. I mean, he's one of the classic writers that has really changed the framework of how I view the world. So it's just being around the right kind of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that your calendar is something that you pay attention to and you build on. And I have to say it again, and I probably said it in podcasts before, but you you basically have a glimpse of how successful a person is, of how his calendar is looking, and how attentive is someone to his scheduling of time, because this is all we have, right? We all have 24 hours in a day, and the way you start building your day hour by hour matters a lot, and the most you can do out of that, the better you're going to be. I want to ask you something that also came to my mind when you said that you answered a previous question, that a successful person is always someone who encounters some difficulties in his life, and even some failures, some big failures. Do you think of any example you can give us of something that didn't go your way and you learn a lot from it and you move forward from that point?
Sure. And I think it's actually important to have those struggles. Hopefully they don't stop you from moving forward with it, especially when they happen early on in someone's journey. I think that can be really detrimental, and someone can say, you know what, I shouldn't have stepped out of my comfort zone. I have this comfortable job and I've got security there, and just kind of throw in the towel on it. But I think having those lumps in the road really builds character, and I think it teaches us a lot about ourselves. And that first project that I did, this fix and flip, so our first son had just been born. This was December. We bought this December of 2019. So right before COVID. It's kind of the end of our normal lives. And I jumped into a project with a gentleman I'd met at a meetup, and we had kind of put together the timeline for how it was going to go and the way that it was going to be structured. And I was just so eager to get into a deal and kind of build that momentum and do our first project. And I overlooked a lot of things that at this point in my career, I would never overlook. And that was around the way that the partnership was structured. Essentially, I was taking all the risk. I was the capital partner. He was the GC, and he was the one that was essentially carrying out the day-to-day tasks. And there were a lot of mistakes that were made. And the way that we had set up the project, it was me taking all of the risk. And the project ended up working out okay. We got shut down by the city for a little bit, and the entire world had gotten shut down. We dealt with asbestos that we didn't expect. Our timelines were twice as long as we expected. Our budget was twice as much as we expected. And luckily, the housing market stayed afloat, and it actually kind of went through a boom, and we ended up doing okay. But we made a lot of mistakes that if we didn't get bailed out, we would have lost a decent amount of money. I've also invested in someone else's deal who was very popular on social media, was doing a lot of big things. There was a lot of momentum in his world, and I got really sucked into that and drawn to it. And I invested somewhat blindly into a project that looked really interesting. I had some friends that were jumping into it, and I kind of trusted their vetting process and didn't go through my own. And the gentleman turned out to not be the guy that he said he was, and there was some interesting stuff going on with how he was, managing the money, and we ended up losing money on the project. And so those were two instances that happened within about an 18-month period of each other. And I felt really deflated by that. So I think it's important to understand that these are learning experiences, and those are two mistakes that I can promise you I will never make again. And one of them we got hurt by, and the other one we didn't get hurt by. But I think it's important to lean into that and learn from it and understand where there was a mistake, and not point the blame at anyone else, and point the blame inward and say, hey, there were mistakes that I made in that project.
That's impressive. It's impressive in the fact that you got back up from those situations and you continue to press on your journey and your goals. Most people would probably just quit or have regrets and got out of it and say, forget about this. I'm not cut out for this. But you need to keep going. You need to keep pressing on your goals all the time. And I think this is one of the things that yourself and many people that are successful do. They don't quit no matter what. I think it's something that it's a trait that needs to be ingrained in your brain and your circuits inside your skull to get up and do something day by day towards your goal. You have a business. You are an entrepreneur. You are a real estate investor. How do you manage all these things in one day? What does your day look like?
I wish I had a clear-cut answer to that. It really is with my day job. I have a lot of flexibility in what I do. I'm typically in the field scanning patients 1 or 2 days a week, and those days it's the time that I have dedicated to any outside endeavors is either early in the morning or late in the evening. The rest of the week, I'm kind of handling back-end operations, new business development for our company, and being the main point of contact for all of our staff as well as our clinics. I'm leaving here right after this to go. We're launching a new clinic that for a concierge medicine physician doing some stress echo packages. So we're really excited about that. But I have a lot more flexibility to be doing property tours, underwriting deals, working with our vendors, talking with the property management team. As you know, in the multifamily space, a lot of what we do as asset managers is almost manage the property managers, which is frustrating at times, but that's part of the process of really being on top of your assets that you own, especially when you have investors involved. So my days and my weeks there's so much variance from day to day and from week to week. So that's why I think it's even more important for me to go back every Sunday night or early Monday morning and really create the blueprint or the framework for where I'm going to be able to have certain chunks of time. Or I don't know if you've read the book Deep Work.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic book to really block out those chunks of time to say, hey, this is where my phone is not gonna have notifications, and I can really dedicate myself to going all in on this task and not be checking my emails and really. So that's where the importance of having a week set aside to have different blocks for different tasks and it's not going to be the same. It's not going to say, hey, every Tuesday from 9 to 12 is when I'm doing this. I just don't have that luxury of knowing exactly when that's going to be. So I have to be very intentional about creating that time to making sure that I can be there and dedicated for it. So when I'm doing my family time, that's also a set of time that I have blocked aside where there are no interruptions to that, and that's I'm going to be there and be present and not have my son asking me, hey, can you put away your phone and play with me? I already want to be there and do that.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's a great approach. And I think, people need to understand in general that you are as busy as you want to be in general. So if you block times, like you said, for certain things, this is the planning is probably the most important thing for someone in your position, who juggles things left and right and, have to take care of many things at a time. Planning and strategizing about your calendar is essential. When do you take care of yourself? And what do you do to take care of yourself?
Yeah, that's such a vital question, because without that, everything else is essentially meaningless. So
Yeah.
for me, my physical health is probably the biggest component to it. So I have a morning routine where I do some stretching. I'm getting over a little bit of a shoulder injury, so I haven't been able to go to the gym and do what I like to do as far as routine in the gym as much. So a lot of stretching, a lot of morning walks. That's a way for me to just I wake up and my head. I don't know about you, but the gears are just spinning the second the alarm clock goes off, and I can just jump into that at 5:30 in the morning. But it's very healthy for me to get out and take a walk and just kind of clear my head a little bit. We might have
Yeah,
a
that's the
visitor
wrong
here on the
one.
podcast.
That's great.
So that's a really important one. Sports has always been a big part of my life. So we've got a neighborhood softball league that I try to get out and play once or twice a month. I love to play golf. I don't get to play that often, but if I can get out and get on the course, even to just hit a bucket of balls, maybe once a month, that gives me time to almost take a little bit of a time out from my busy day-to-day life, to where I feel rested and rejuvenated to show up for the people and the things in my life that I have to, as a better version of myself. So those
Mhm.
things are so important. And it's funny because I think as entrepreneurs, that's one of the first things that we can be willing to let go of, because we want to be productive and we want to show up and we want to do what we say we're going to do, and do it when we say we're going to do it. And I think that's obviously very important. But if I'm not taking care of myself, the way that I show up for others it's diminished. And it's a balance. And we feel like the word balance is talked about so often. And balance to me is somewhat of an illusion. And I think that there's different chapters of our lives and different seasons of our lives where you have to have intentional imbalance. And you have to say, hey, I'm in this chapter where we're really building and growing these businesses and really going all in on my belief and betting on us and our actions to build that. And it doesn't mean that we shut out the family life, but I think that this is just a season where things are going to be pretty wild and crazy, and it's going to be out of control. And there's going to be moments where I have to recalibrate and say, hey, I'm not doing this to the best of my abilities. I need to restructure this, and understand that maybe the next season of our life I will let go of a lot of things or delegate a lot more stuff, and I want to be at every baseball practice or every dance recital and every parent teacher association conversation that gets had. So I think it's also understanding that, and giving myself a little bit of grace to say, hey, we're doing the best that we can here, and it's not going to be perfect, but we're going to show up as best as we can.
Yeah, that's a great approach, Jesse. I love what you said. The fact that we, in general, in healthcare, as medical professionals, we think about our life mainly geared towards our professional life. And we tend to not look at the big picture. And at the end, what's left is our family, our relationships, our relationship with ourselves, and the way we take care of ourselves, towards our life. But most people get into this habit of thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do this week, next week? What's going to happen? And worrying and being anxious and um, being stressed out by those events will only bring you down. And I totally agree with this approach that you need to kind of raise above and say, hey, it's me. And if I'm not okay, nothing is going to be okay. Um, in terms of your juggling your full-time entrepreneurial life with your investing life, I want to kind of ask you what someone who is in this profession and wants to start investing, what should they do first as a startup point?
I think it all comes down to clarity as far as what you are ultimately going, what your end goal really is. Some people, in regardless of whether it's the healthcare sector or any sector, a high earning individual can have different goals. Some may really not be happy with their current position or what they're doing professionally and want to jump out of that and jump into more of the active side of something else. Some individuals, especially, I'm sure you have a lot of conversations with physicians who have dedicated their entire life to their practice and they love seeing patients. They don't want to stop doing that. They just want to add additional income streams to supplement that and not have to fully rely on that as they get older and as they kind of in the back nine of their career. So I think understanding that clarity for each individual around what the end goal really looks like is so important. And that's really kind of like a soul searching proposition. Like that's something that you or I can't answer for anyone else. I can happy to share my experience with it and what that looks like for me and same as you. But for anyone listening to this, I think you really have to just find out what's best for you and your family. And once you have that, then you can almost reverse engineer what are the things that you can do to get to that point. Because when we say real estate investing, that's this huge overarching umbrella that has so many different niches and sub asset classes underneath that. And then with each one, you can either be doing that actively or passively. So there's so many different paths that you can go. So I think unless you have a clear target or destination at the onset, it's really, you're going to kind of be drowning in trying to figure all this out. There's so much great content out there. We live in this digital age, and there's so much content at our fingertips of people that are actively out there doing this, or people that have done this for decades and are willing to share that information for fun and for free. And so I think it's so important to get out there and listen and to connect with people. I know that we got connected on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I'm not a big social media guy, but LinkedIn has been such an incredible platform for me to be able to connect with like-minded individuals. I've found deals on LinkedIn. I've created partnerships on LinkedIn, and I've just created some incredible friendships with people that we have this digital relationship, and then we find ways to meet up in person. And I think it's been great to get that clarity and then put that out there in the world. And you'd be amazed to find out what happens when you really start sharing that and getting out there. There's so many different paths that you can go, but I think connecting with people that are maybe a couple steps ahead of you is just really important, because the network of people that we've surrounded ourselves with have been so gracious with their time and with their experiences to share that, even when there's not any kind of, there's no ulterior motives. It's just sharing to help someone out. And I think that I didn't realize that at first. I thought the entrepreneurial world was going to be a lot more cutthroat than it really is. And I think ultimately the people there is that out there. There are people that are out there just to serve themselves. And I don't think that those people end up being successful long term. And the people that I've been able to connect with that show up day in and day out and have made themselves available, they're the people that you can speak with about what they're doing and help you kind of steer the ship to get to that end destination. So sorry, it's kind of a long answer, but
No, I think
that's what I
it's
would
great.
suggest.
I think it's definitely something that the audience will relate to, especially the new doctors or healthcare professionals that are wanting to get into investing to create those passive income streams. And this is one of the issues that many people have. They get burnout in their profession. They don't want to practice anymore. They want to retire and they cannot. And I'm thinking, retrospectively in 2008, 2009 time when the market tanked, and I had many, many, many colleagues in my field that were at the brink of retirement, that they were looking forward to it. And all of a sudden, the dreams were shattered by the market tanking, the stock market tanking.
Yep.
And they had to work 5 or 10 more years. And when when you're close to 70 and somebody tells you that you need to work 5 more years or 10 more years, that's devastating. And I wanted to emphasize what you said, that the fact that you need to start building those passive income stream as soon as you can and put yourself out there, especially with the technology era we live in right now. I mean, this can get better. I mean, if I look back 20, 25 years ago, we didn't have internet.
Yep.
We had the phone booths at the corner of the street to make a phone call. I mean, it was incredible, and I still did deals. I still bought properties, but now everything can be done electronically, or through the phone or through the internet. Get out there, connect with people, like you said, get in the meetups, get in the networking events, start putting yourself out there, even if you don't know anything, but just start educating yourself, and surround yourself with the right people. Yes, I think LinkedIn is one of those things in social media that need to be appreciated. And I certainly am glad, we're in the same network and same field. Do you have any projects or things that you're excited about right now that you're looking forward to?
Sure. We are the one project that we're currently working on and have been working on is a short-term rental fund. So we've been placing equity in a nationwide fund for short-term rentals. We have 73 properties in that portfolio currently. We're going to be continuing with acquisitions until the end of the year, and then we'll shut down the acquisitions mode and just get into stabilization. So that's been a really fun project, and have teamed up with some incredible people doing that at somewhat of an institutional level. So it's been really great to be a part of that journey. Like I said, that will be going on for a couple more months. And still the multifamily, which is more of your space as well, I believe, has
Yeah.
been a challenge. It's been a challenge to make deals work, or to have deals pencil. We did close on a property about 3 months ago, and that was the first property we closed on in 2 years. So I think we're starting to see some properties come to market that actually make sense. I think we're starting to see some sellers that are starting to get more to a place of realizing that the market has spoken, that your property might not be worth what you thought it was, which is allowing for some more buying opportunities. So we're very excited about that, but I still feel like we haven't quite gotten there. So we've been very active in that space, but we're also very patient at the same time. We're aggressively out there seeking and underwriting, but being very conservative in our approach. And if it takes us another year or two to do a deal, I hope it doesn't. But if it does, we would rather do that and know that the deals that we're in are great long-term properties, as
Mhm.
opposed to saying, hey, we did 3-4 deals and they're kind of all marginal, and there's nothing special about them. So it feels like we're right on the verge as we're recording this in the second week of September. We've got a Fed rate cut coming next week, so the end of the tightening cycle is we're shifting into the easing cycle. So we'll see how that plays out with the economy. We have an election coming up, so I think that there's so much on the verge here. I think 2025 is going to be, we want to be as prepared as possible, so when things start to really change, we can be top of mind for some of these brokers to hopefully get some more deals over the finish line. So we're really excited about it.
That's great. I'm just thinking that everybody has the same approach right now, from what I hear, in real estate, field, that everybody's waiting for the Fed to cut the rate and interest rates to go down and properties come on the market. And everybody thinks it's going to be like a, bloodbath, and people are going to start selling and get properties with a great price and make good deals. But everybody's doing the same thing. They're waiting
Mm-hmm.
for something to happen. And I'm just concerned that when that moment is going to come, the influx of properties are not going to match the the money that sits on the side right now, and people are going to start actually offering and start battling each other to offer for those properties that insane amounts. And I'm just worried about the cycle going on and on, like we've been into for the past 2 years or so. But I
Sure.
agree with you. I think it's a great approach to kind of wait and see what's going to happen. For the listeners that are thinking of investing in real estate as a passive income stream, we've both been on the active side of it. But from the passive investor point of view, what would you um, what would you say to someone who is worried that is not going to get his returns back or even money back?
Sure. I think that right now, so you're referring to if someone's actually in a deal right
Yeah,
now and they
yeah,
have concerns
exactly.
around it. I think that the communication right now between sponsors and LPs needs to be at its highest point that it's ever been. So if you are in a deal and you have concerns, or you're not quite sure, you're getting your monthly or quarterly reporting, maybe distributions have paused. It's very common right now. I'm in a deal where distributions have paused, and we've got great debt on the property. Operations have just been challenging. We're hoping so they've been paused for a year. We're hoping that this next quarter we're going to get back to them, and we're not concerned about the long-term play of the property. And it's because the operator has been so diligent with reaching out and just very detailed reporting. And also we've had some separate calls with him to get more of their insight on what's really going on here. And they've been fantastic navigating through the storm that we're in. So if you're in a project that you're concerned about it, don't hesitate to reach out to the sponsor. And hopefully you've got a sponsor that is more than willing to share the good, the bad, and everything in between, because there are challenges right now. We're in this period of short-term kind of rockiness, but the long-term outlook is we're still in this insane housing shortage that's going to get worse after 2025 when some of this new supply goes through the system. So I think it has to be communication. And if you're listening to this and you're a GP, overly communicate. If you were sending out communication once a quarter, bump it up to once a month. If it's once a month, send it out every other week, and just be proactive in sharing what's going on, and don't be afraid to address some of the big topics, even if you're not sharing the best news. So I guess that would be my advice, is to, on either side of it, overly communicate. If you're an LP, go out and ask questions. And hopefully you've got a GP that's willing to answer them honestly and openly.
Yeah, that's great. I totally agree that. I think one of the best things that I'm looking for in a team, if I would be a passive investor in anything, it would be the people that I'm working with and the quality of their communication skills and the way they relate to their investors. Because I think, things cannot be perfect. Things will not be perfect. No matter how you look at it, something is going to go wrong at some point. But the way you communicate that in a transparent way, it's going to make, it's going to build your trust in something that, even if you don't have control about, you were upfront with it. Jesse, it's been a great thing talking to you about multifamily, and this is something that in real estate in general, but this is something that I want to ask you on a personal level. Do you have any kind of preference in terms of real estate investing specialties, I would say? What do you like to invest in? What do you like as a specialty in real estate? Are you more of a cash flow guy? Are you more of a capital appreciation? What are you looking at?
I love the blend of the two. I think they offer very different aspects to one's portfolio and their kind of overall net worth. And that's why multifamily is kind of the tried and true classic. It's not the highest cash flow play, but it's such a core human need of housing, especially in the B and C class space, and the appreciation play, especially when you're doing value add projects and you are putting in that sweat equity. Even if it's not you with the tool belt on, your team is putting in that sweat equity to really drive the value. That's something that I will likely do for the rest of my investing career, because I think it's market cycle agnostic. It doesn't matter if we're in a boom or a bust cycle. If you can get in at a good value and create that value, you're substantially changing the NOI, and therefore on a cap rate, you're changing the value of your property intrinsically. I also love short-term rentals because of that, the cash flow that it provides. You get more into the double-digit cash flow plays. That is more of I don't know if I'd call it a luxury service, because short-term rentals has become almost a mainstay in our economy beyond just taking trips with the family. It's not necessarily just a vacation rental. It's now also with working remotely, families will go stay in the Poconos for a week with their kids and work from home, but have it be almost like a local travel destination while they're still working. So and corporate housing is another one that kind of fits that bill too. So I love short-term rentals for the cash flow, and I love multifamily for the appreciation. There still is cash flow there, but it is more of an appreciation play and more of that overall net worth jump in maybe a 5-year time period. So I think the blend of the two is, for me and for our family, that's what a really nice balanced portfolio looks like.
That's awesome. Yeah, I agree with you. Healthcare, food industry, and housing are probably the three main things that people will need no matter what, right? So I think housing in general will be something that I would like to invest in from now on, because apparently we don't have enough housing at all over the years, and I don't think that supply is gonna reach the needs anytime soon.
It's so hard
Yeah.
to build right now. So
Yes.
it's hard for us to catch up with that supply and demand imbalance. So unfortunately, I think it's going to be an issue throughout the nation for a while. I think it's going to take a little while for that to work itself out.
Yeah, I agree. Jesse, it's been a great conversation. I hope the listeners are gonna have a lot of things to learn from this one. How can anybody get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing?
Sure. So our company, as far as helping medical professionals invest in real estate, is called Wealth Care Capital Partners. So our website is wealthcarecap.com. You can learn a little bit more about our team and the projects that we've done. My email is jesse@wealthcarecap.com. Always open to connecting and trying to help out however I can, as if that's sharing resources or experiences to help someone kind of get on the path, and whatever I could do to help. So happy to connect.
That's awesome. Thank you for having you, man. I appreciate your time.
Hey, appreciate it, Tudor. Have a good one.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.